Thank you. So I think, Zach, we have a PowerPoint to help guide us as we go back and forth. And the way Cindy and I are going to do this is really talk through just a little bit some key points. So that way you see different methods from different counties as well. So my name is Seth Brown. I'm the Director of Educator Support and Leadership Development. Tom Feller is normally the partner that he's off screen right now. So it's the last really 5 years we have been deeply engaged in advanced teaching roles. 2 years before that, we started our pipeline programs as well. So I think right there with Charlotte Meck, we've been doing this for a long time and find a lot of joy out of it. So Cindy.
Sure. Hello, Cindy Bennett. I'm with Vance County Schools. We have currently 7 opportunity culture schools that have been working in this area for a little over 4 years.
So Zach, if you could go ahead and progress on, I think let's see what we have. Yeah, all right. So first thing with Pitt County Schools, we are a district-wide implementation, partly because we are in the 5th year of a federal TIF-5 grant, which allowed us to have $16 million to implement this on top of the state grant as well. So between the two, we are district-wide, and it is a complete human capital management system. With advanced teaching roles, we have 3 main positions that are paid positions. Each gets a stipend. The first is the multi-classroom teacher. It's very similar to the multi-teacher leader that Opportunity Culture has. The main difference with our position is that ours is a teacher of record. So they're assigned to 2 or 3 teachers and they share test score data. So it's a little more of a teacher. It also honestly makes them a little less flexible with working with large groups of teachers as well. So that is one position. That's our highest level. Currently, they get a 30% stipend on top of their salary. So that's a chunk of money there as well during the grant period. The next one is the facilitating teacher. This is a highly effective teacher who leads a community of practice. So think about it as the A team. If you have an instructional problem of practice, who do you need to call in? The A team. Well, the facilitating teacher in a sense is like Hannibal. They're the ones who are well trained, who takes the lead, does the reports, and is responsible. But any great team needs great people. So they work very closely with collaborating teachers who are other quality teachers who work with the facilitating teachers all on that instructional need, that problem of practice that we call it as well. We have 2 pipeline programs, which is key. So the idea is you cannot just wave a magic wand and get a teacher leader. So we have a beginning teacher program called KeyBT, as in the keystone of an arch. And then we have the Teacher Leadership Institute, which is a 2-year program, intense training. They end up completing a project, so they have to apply the training they do, and it sets them up for national boards, which we pay for national boards, because part of the idea is if we have to keep them here, we have to increase their salary, and Pitt County Schools can't pay their salary for 20 more years, but the state of North Carolina can if we get them national boards. So how do we offset that increased cost to do that? And that's what the TLI program is designed to do as well. And then really the focus is on high quality training, like super high quality training, that then we are trained to do it. So we do not have to get consultants to do our training anymore because our folks are trained to do that. And then also district coaching was key for us as well. So that's Pitt. And next slide. All right, there we go. Well, I'll keep rolling. So core beliefs. Really the idea here is for us is we designed this with a couple things in mind. One, that leading students is different than leading adults. You cannot just take a classroom teacher and expect them to be comfortable leading adults. We found this out our first year with the Teacher Leadership Institute. We had 3 Pitt County Teachers of the Year. We had 1 Regional Teacher of the Year. We had 1 Regional Runner-Up. And about 4 months into the program, they said, Seth, Tom, when it comes to leading adults, we're scared. Who are we to tell another adult what to do? Because they did not understand the difference between positional power and other types of influence. So that needs to happen. The other thing we realize is that teacher leaders are highly effective classroom teachers. The other end of that is just because you're blue does not make you a teacher leader. Leadership is learned is the other thing that we believe in. So the idea is making sure that we can teach the skills and then looking at what competencies and what things do teachers need in order to do that. The idea that the best predictor of future success is prior experience. So give them opportunities in the pipeline to actually show what they do as well. So that's the key thing for us with the pipeline program, and also through the interview process. And then really the pipeline programs really are key to allowing new advanced teaching role teachers to be better prepared on the first day. The first year we did this, we got our grant. We started training some folks who are really highly qualified. They did not have the training, and it took us until March of the first year of our federal grant to get everybody trained. So basically a whole year was spent training folks. So the idea is then let's move to be proactive and get that done ahead of time was one of the keys for the last several years we've been able to do. And next slide. There we go.
So when we think about Vance, and I have a link here for our opportunity culture website, so you can see actually all of our job descriptions, our process for employment, and there's some other things here. But one of the things that we have talked about and really thought about is when we're searching for folks for these key positions, and we have the multi-classroom leader, we have the expanded impact teacher, and we have the reach associate. Those are the three positions that we have. So looking more specifically, I will say at the multi-classroom leader or the expanded impact teacher, one of the things that we started with was clearly articulating or being able to clearly articulate the skills, the knowledge, the disposition of these folks that we thought could best serve in these positions. So we knew that we were looking for folks who had a proven track record as a teacher. And so we have allowed in our application process, of which you can gain the information from the link, multiple ways for them to demonstrate their track record, because we've had great folks come to us from other states, from private or from charter schools. And so having some flexibility, but no matter where they come from or what their level of experience, they have to be able to demonstrate a proven track record as a teacher. They also have to have demonstrated leadership skills. And one of the ways that we do that, working with new leaders and our partnership with Public Impact, I'll tell you, we have worked hand in hand with both of these groups our entire time. We give them opportunities through problems of practice, through a leadership assessment to really get a feel for their leadership skills, their problem solving and strategic thinking skills, because those are two things that they really have to be competent in. They have to be willing to be a problem solver, willing to make a decision, and that involves and requires that they are very strategic in their thinking. They have to be able to collaborate with adult learners. And we have found that some who can demonstrate leadership skills and have a proven track record of as a teacher really struggle working with adult learners. So there's some very specific things that we try to do to ensure that we can glean some high-level information and competencies from our folks when we begin that process. They have to understand data systems and data analysis. So one of the things that they do for us is provide the data, but also provide an analysis. So they're really demonstrating to us as they prove their track record as an effective teacher, that they understand, they have used and understand and can explain the data systems that would actually explain to us how they could qualify as a highly performing or a high performing teacher. So again, we have three basic positions: the multi-classroom leader, who could serve and coach and support up to 6 teachers. That pay scale goes from a $9,000 to $13,000 pay differential a year. For our expanded impact teacher, they could begin with serving an additional 33% students. In other words, we look at a class size average in a given school. 33% more puts them at that base pay differential. Then we move to 50, and then we move to 66% more, and they could earn an additional pay differential of $9,000 a year. They again are a full teacher of record. And then our reach associate, which has been in our situations, we have looked at folks who might have been classified as a teacher assistant or a support person who has a minimum of a 2-year degree, but they have shown great knowledge and skills, maybe whether it's working directly with teachers or working with students as well. and their pay differential begins at 1,000 and goes to 2,500. But we have multiple opportunities for folks. But the first thing that we have to do is, can we clearly articulate the knowledge, skills, and dispositions for these particular positions? And then how are we going to determine whether or not we have the right folks selected for these positions? Next slide.
All right. So I just put in to the chat a link to the criteria because it's sort of hard to see. It's a 2-page document. This is just the first page. The other thing to do as well, this is really Cindy and I giving you an overview. Part of this, I think, is also we rely on the expertise within this group. So really, when you think about the 4 districts who have really started this and are continuing it right now, not only Cindy with Vance, but Tom Feller is with me from Pitt. We've got Erin Swanson with Edgecombe. I'm not sure if she's in here or not, but definitely got Amy and Bechet with Charlotte Meck, who have been around for a while and really rely on each other. So I think the idea here is ask questions as we go through this, and we'll do our best to respond as we go through as well. So what you see on the screen is what we actually ended up with in Pitt County to our qualification criteria. We ended up actually having to do this because we first decided when we were designing it, we were first thinking when we are trying to identify these folks, let's use things that teachers already recognize and are okay with getting paid for. So if you see in there, national boards is worth 2 points, which is the higher of the 2 options. The master's is worth it. And then we had our own internal certification program, the Teacher Leadership Institute. So those were originally the only 3 criteria. You had to have 1 or 2 of those in order to qualify. We quickly realized by listening to parents or listening to principals and teachers, all right, so how about some other areas of expertise? So working with them for literally a year before the grants started, and then even a little bit afterwards, we have really settled on really 5 areas of expertise. One is that student achievement has to be key because you have to, and I said this earlier in one of our core beliefs, they have to have credibility. So they have to have at least positive green results, if not blue. And most of our folks are positive 1. So in other words, they're better than just 1 year of average. And test scores alone do not make you a teacher leader. So not only do you have to have a point from the student achievement criteria, but also some other point in here to make sure that you qualify. Part of that is through the federal grant we have, but this is a way really to tap into some other areas of expertise that we have as well. Through the federal grant, they also said use the evaluation. So we added, as you see, the distinguished on different standards based on what it aligns to. The trick is you cannot be distinguished in standard 1, 3, and 4 as an example and get 3 points. But if you are distinguished in one of those, then you get 1 point. So it was sort of a give and take to make sure that we had a high expectation of criteria and also that we stuck to the standard that we had. So that way teachers knew ahead of time, what do I need to aim for? So if I want this position, I know what training to go to and what to make sure I get. So that was key for us. And next slide. So our first year, we're a little more decentralized than some districts. Our first year implementing, we were hoping to hire 90 or 72 facilitating teachers. Our largest year, we hired 97 facilitating teachers. And just for us, because of the size of our district folks, we decided we did not have time or want to hold up the screening process. Part of that might have been a planning thing if we would have started this earlier, maybe. But the idea is what we did is instead was use the criteria to qualify folks, and then we verified. So that was a key thing. It made it easier for the most part because people knew what they needed to do before they applied. And also we had to have some crucial conversations about folks about what they needed to do in order to qualify in future years. The other thing that we did is basically treated it like regular human resources processes. So we did not want to recreate the wheel for this. So basically it's interview at least 3 candidates, follow the normal processes, actually not only for the hiring process, but for the improvement process as well. We did not create new processes. We just followed what we already had for advanced teaching roles as well. So that idea helped us, I think, go through as well. Recommendations, definitely making sure that principals had a teacher representative with them, specifically with the multi-classroom and co-teacher part. If 2 teachers share a classroom together on a regular basis and share test scores, in the end of the year, our multi-classroom teachers were really emphatic of, if I have more say and know that I choose to work with that person, it works. Sort of like in a marriage. Arranged marriages work sometimes, most of the time not. If I have some say in it, that helps. The same for a facilitating teacher and collaborating teacher. When they choose to be a part of the team, it works a whole lot better than when a principal says you shall be on this team. We dealt with a lot of that the first year especially, in making sure that we had the right people on the right team. And let's see what the next slide is. Yeah, so this one, and I think you'll get these slides, but the idea here is the training and support for us is one that we're trying to be proactive of looking at what skills do folks need in order to lead, and then what training are we able to provide for them. So we have our Teacher Leadership Institute is the pipeline program, and a lot of the training that is in the rest of it is embedded in this program. So when someone completes the program, they pretty much are well qualified, if not completely qualified, for the advanced teaching role programs. Adaptive Schools is a program we use really for group collaboration. It's key to what we do, and it aligns very directly to data-driven dialogue, which is how we implement the inquiry cycle. And the neat thing there is that training between adaptive schools and data-driven dialogue in the schools that really have widespread use, it has really infiltrated every professional learning community we have. So that's been key. We also recognize there's expertise in national boards in the master's area, and just recognizing those folks worked hard. They have an area of expertise in that area. That was one of the things we utilized as well as criteria in preparing folks as they get ready for these positions. On the other side, cognitive coaching, we really use for our multi-classroom teachers. Edgecombe County is actually partnering with us now so we can train larger amounts of teachers, because that's really a key program for us for that particular role. Situational leadership really helps not only with the advanced teaching roles, but also our administration. So we align, for example, if you have someone who is brand new and scared, you lead them differently than you have someone who comes in, they're brand new and they think they can save the world. You have those beginning teachers, right? And then that's very different than an experienced teacher who you can delegate to, and you do not need to micromanage. So the idea is creating that common language has helped us tremendously. From Charlotte Meck, they told us about crucial conversations and all the Vital Smart programs, and we've got folks trained in all of those programs, but crucial conversations is really key for high stakes conversations, mainly because that first group told us we're scared to have conversations with other peers. Who are we? I'm not a principal. So the idea is, how do you have that conversation in a safer way? And then district coaches are really critical. So this is not one-time training. Every month, oftentimes every week, or sometimes multiple times a week, we have 3 district coaches for all of our positions. And that is vitally important for the training that we provide our folks. Getting them prepared and then keeping them prepared as we go along. And next slide.
And I would say here in Vance, we use a lot of the similar professional development. We also, as I mentioned earlier, have a strong partnership with new leaders. They're providing and continue to provide training for our multi-classroom leaders, for our principals who are leading in our opportunity culture schools, and Public Impact continues to do the same. We also have done a lot of work with the Friday Institute, with teaching and coaching and learning in a virtual environment. So those things have been very beneficial to us throughout the last year, I'll say. Monthly pulse checks with the multi-classroom leaders, monthly problem of practice sessions with our principals about current issues, concerns, or situations within our schools. Those things, along with our work with the Modern Teacher platform and supports, have been very helpful. I will tell you, Vance is one of the schools who has been fully remote since last March. Thankfully, last night, our board did agree to begin bringing students back March 1st. But it's been a very, very difficult year for our schools and for this community. But when we started looking very quickly in March at how we would roll out a strong instructional program remotely, the first folks that we went to help us with the design, of course, was our MCLs. We knew they had the skills, the knowledge, they understood the teachers in the buildings where they were working and the schools, and they had the respect of this community. So I'll tell you, that was very helpful to us as well. We actually, with our application process, and again, via the link, you can see the specifics of it. We do require 3 years of data because we want them to know who they are, know their results, be able to explain their results and any particular trends that they might see, either positive or negative. It's always very interesting to listen when they're explaining their data analysis, because you oftentimes learn a lot about their leadership and their belief system through the explanation of their data. So that's been very eye-opening for us as well. There is, as I mentioned, a leadership potential assessment that New Leaders works with us on. We get results from that and profiles. That really is the beginning of our district screener. So folks apply. It's an open application throughout the year. And as positions come up, then we go into the pool of those who have applied. If they make it through the district screen, meaning that they have the minimum requirements expected in the application process, that their leadership potential score is at a level we feel comfortable with moving forward, then we pull together any principal of an opportunity culture school in the district who has vacancies, along with myself and our executive director of HR, and we begin the district interview process. So that is open to all of the principals who might have any vacancies if they're serving or leading an opportunity culture school. We use the behavior event interview process, which we have found to be extremely helpful and beneficial. And we've had great success in identifying key folks there. And then once we finish the behavior event interview process, as a district team, we discuss if this person then is eligible to move forward. Then any principal who has an interest in a school-based interview with that person moves forward using members from their school leadership team, other teachers in the building, and they have a school-based interview. So folks, when they apply, do not apply for a particular school. They are applying for a position. So that's a little different than some districts have used. Other districts have a very large pool. They have a lot of vacancies. Right now, we have about 22 people in our opportunity culture districts in our school, much fewer than some of the other districts. So if I have interviewed and I have made it through the district protocols, and I have 3 principals who want to invite me to a school-based interview, then I would do so. So what happens if then I am offered a position in 2 or 3 schools? At that point, it is up to me to make the decision as to which school I think best, that I could work with best, where I see the greatest match or I have the greatest interest. It is a 3-year contract. So we very clearly upfront designed that contract that after 3 years, if they may have the opportunity to continue as a teacher in the district, but they would have to be, the principal at the school where they're working would have to request that they continue in that contract. We look at their data, because if I am an MCL and I'm coaching 6 teachers, the data of those 6 teachers also belongs to me. So I still have to continue to have a proven track record of success. So at that point in time, the principal then could make the request to extend the contract for that particular person. Then it's a year-by-year contract that we move forward into. We've only had one person who, after a couple of years, the candidate themselves or the employee themselves decided this wasn't the right thing for them. Brilliant educator, extremely successful in the classroom, struggled with coaching adults. So again, those are key things that we have to be very mindful of. But our process seems to work so far. We've been very, as I said, very successful. Application, first district screen, making sure we have all of the information and minimal requirements. District interview, including the behavior, that is using the behavior event process. And then any principal who wishes to have a further interview with that person invites them to a school-based interview. And then they let us know at the district team, myself and HR, I'm interested in this candidate. And then again, we move forward with the negotiations if they have multiple schools who are interested in them or not. And from that point in time, we move forward with working with the schools and their leadership team to determine the pay differential based on the number of teachers that they'll be supporting. We do not allow first-year MCLs to be a level 3, which is our highest paid with the largest number of teachers. We're very mindful and careful that we just don't place them in a school with six teachers, maybe in multiple grades and multiple content areas. So we have to be very careful as we work with our schools to design not only the positions, but the staff support that these folks will offer. Next slide.
So these are our lessons learned. And Amanda, I'll get the, or if Tom is around, we can get the information to the TLI website, the Teacher Leadership Institute. I think that goes to the last bullet there, is that the phase-in program is key, the pipeline programs. In talking early on, even before we got any grant, we were talking to Charlotte Meck, and I think it was Melissa we were talking to, and the pipeline program was key because, again, I said this, you can't just wave a magic wand. So you have to have that pipeline program. The other thing for us is by starting our 2 pipeline programs before we had any money, it made it, I think in my mind, a much stronger grant when we applied for a grant, because we already had things, we showed investment, we put our money where our mouth was, the district leadership was invested. So I think that's a key thing. And we'll be definitely willing to talk with you about what we did there. I think the other thing back to the top is decide how to measure impact early, because the second bullet is there. These positions have a positive impact, and you have to determine really what are you looking for, because if you have a instructional problem of practice, like in science, and you do not have a science and a grade test in that grade level, it's hard to measure that impact. There are other ways to do it. So that's where qualitative data comes in. And for us, we spent $380,000 on an external evaluator. They are a thought partner. It has been central to all we do. And that's probably 2 to 3 times what Tripp Stallings and the Friday Institute folks got for the entire state and the 6 counties. So invest in that early, plan on that, I think. The ongoing continuous support is vital. Having a coach there is critical. The more widespread use you have, the better. So once schools do things across the board, it's critical. Plan, where does your MCT go? Where did your facilitating teacher go? So you impact multiple grade levels. That's critical. So you're not just one dancing idiot in a building, right? You know the problem there. You feel lonely. When you have other compadres there with you, it really works tremendously, tremendously well. And principals are key. And I know that's one thing we've been talking with Edgecombe, especially about the school transformation process. And Cindy, you might mention that, but the principals are key. And then teachers are key early on, so they have buy-in. And final slide. You're muted.
Thank you. Just a couple more things. And again, I echo what Seth has said as well, but clarity around roles and responsibilities is very important. And that does, in fact, include the principal in that building, because we really work and operate under the mantra that everyone can be coached up. So it takes a while to help folks understand that, because just like in the scenarios that we were working with earlier, oftentimes people might think that if I have a coach, I'm deficient. So we try to, everyone needs coaching up or deserves coaching up. So it's about increasing the knowledge and skills of all staff. So that really changes the culture of a building. But those roles have to be clarified, and those responsibilities have to be clarified early. And the principals are key. They have to understand and invite and welcome the knowledge and expertise of their multi-classroom leader. They have to welcome them around their leadership table to have those ongoing conversations. Because if not, there becomes the great divide of going around the MCL to the teacher if they've been encouraged to do something by an MCL. So clarifying roles and responsibilities, clear communication to all staff to ensure buy-in and develop that healthy school culture. I cannot say that enough. One of the things that new leaders and public impact, both groups have said to us, we heard in Charlotte Meck, we've heard from many others, you know, clear communication, early communication. It includes the communication to the families about the new folks that you're going to have in your building, or the folks with new roles in your building. And so we've tried to use our multi-classroom leaders as not only just members of the school leadership team who meet regularly with that administrator, but also in other ways with our virtual sessions for parent engagement. And so people are beginning to see that these folks are there to support everyone in the building, including the family. So that in itself will either slow the process, stop the process, or just keep the momentum. So I cannot say enough about communicating what the program is going to look like in your school, what the goals and expectations are, and the roles and responsibilities of these folks. And again, if you don't have a strong school-based leadership team, you're going to struggle. Every good principal cannot necessarily lead a good opportunity culture school. We found early on as well, when we opened this up to our schools in a volunteer manner, that every principal wasn't interested in this, because it was more, wait a minute, too many people giving me too many suggestions and pieces of information and advice. And others were like, please, the more eyes in the building, the more support, the better off we are. And some really struggle the first couple of years with letting go of some things and having other people support them in gathering the information and working with teachers. But again, it's a mindset shift for the leaders in the building as well. And then that strong financial model that can be sustained. I learned a long time ago in education, never give someone something that you might have to take back. So be very mindful before you push out these great incentives or these pay differentials that you have some method of sustaining or sustainability. We received the grant early on, but we knew that was time limited. So we very quickly started looking at other opportunities, financial models to sustain our grant. What we have been able to do thus far, when our grant ended, was to look at the trade-off of staffing positions in our schools, and then every school would be, I'll say, personally responsible for the pay differential only. And they were able to look at ways that they could do that with other grants or federal funding that they received. So as a district, we really have committed to district set-asides to support them in those pay differentials, but they have to be willing to have some buy-in. So we'd love to continue the conversation. If you have questions, we'll make sure you have in our emails, you have other links, but thank you so much.